Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sam's Corner. And today we are going to discuss the failing retail market. If you've been watching the news, you know retailers such as J.C. Penney and Neiman Marcus have filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And under Chapter 11 bankruptcy, that doesn't mean that they're completely dissolved. What it means is that they'll go into bankruptcy protection. The company will reorganize, they'll restructure, they may lay some people off, and then hopefully they'll re-emerge better able to deal with the markets. But this is just my personal opinion, my expressed opinion. I don't think many of these retailers are going to make it. The world has changed. I would say maybe let's go back two, three generations. Let's think about marketing in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and I mean basically relatively in the 60s as well. I'm kind of even 70s, but let's just go back. Marketing is different now than it was back then. Back then, things were more localized. They were more local markets. There wasn't all of the international transactions that we have going on. So, department stores were big back then. Why? Because what I would want as a producer is I don't want you to go to my competitors for anything. I want you to come to me. If you want a TV, come to me. If you want a washing machine, come to me. If you want a vacuum cleaner, pots, pans, clothing, etc., I want you to always come to me. And so that was the mentality back then. And if you look at companies like J.C. Penney and Macy's, they were the one stop be all for everything. And that model worked. But as time progressed, as technology progressed, and as we continue to move forward, that model doesn't always work. Now, I believe that Walmart, to a certain degree, has been able to do it, but Walmart says, hey, you come to us and we're going to do our best to make sure that you pay less. And I'll use Amazon because Amazon is nothing more than a distributor. Amazon just like if you want something, come to me. I got it and we got it cheaper. And that's why Amazon has been able to grow and do what it does because number one, it doesn't have that large overhead like Macy's and J.C. Penney's. They don't have the rent. They don't have the utilities, they don't have the taxes, they don't have all of those things that a traditional brick and mortar store would have. And so, because of that, Amazon has been able to position itself as a world leader. Getting back to JCPenney and companies like Macy's, and I want to connect it to our own personal lives and personal finance. These companies, COVID 19 did not put these companies into financial ruin. It just already pushed them. They were already teetering on the edge of ruin anyway. It's no secret that these companies for years have not been doing well. One of the things that I believe that has kept them going is their name and longevity. And so people like, I know them, my father invested, my father's father, I'm just going to keep going with it. And in this new market, I don't think a lot of them are going to emerge and reemerge successfully. I'm not saying that this will be the end of retail, but here's another point about retail that I want to make. There's a difference between having an online store and having an online presence. An online store is when, I'll give an example. So let's say there's Dave's Auto Parts Shop. Let's say the two companies, they're both in Texas. They both deal with like vintage parts. Dave has been doing it for years. Let's say Dave is 60 or 70. Dave's been selling parts since he was in his 20s. So he has an established business in the area. People are like, Dave, you need to get online. You need to do this. The market is changing. You need to get a website. And Dave is like, I don't know about all of that. I don't feel comfortable. But let's say Dave does it and he creates an online store. That's good. That's what we're told in business. But let's say Justina. Let's say Justina is 30 and she grew up with her father, and her father helped her, she helped her father fix cars, and she fell in love with him, and she loves vintage cars. So let's say Justina's like, well, I want to kind of have a business like Dave's, I love vintage cars, I love getting parts and whatever else. But let's say Justina creates an online presence. So while they're both in Texas, Dave's sales are basically in Texas, maybe a little bit outside, but let's say Justina's reach is far, even outside of the US. Justina's business is more likely to do better because she has an online presence than just an online store. An online store is not enough in this day and age. You have to have an online presence. When people think of something, they need to think of you as the person who can get it to them. And just in this case, Justina would be the one. Why? Because people would think, okay, yes, Dave has been around for a long time. People know Dave, but Dave's sales are mostly local. So Dave may have already tapped out before he even created his store, even his online store. He may have tapped out his market. Justina, on the other hand, is like, no, come to me. Come to me. And so if you have people internationally looking for you, your customer base is a lot larger. And it's possible for Justina to do better than Dave. And I'm saying that, applying that to JCPenney and Macy's. And in my opinion, just looking at their business model, it looks like they've created online stores but have not created an online presence. And so the one point I also want to tie to personal finance is it's kind of the same way. As COVID pushed some of these businesses to the brink that were already there, personally, a lot of us are the same way. It behooves all of us to put more money aside, save, and cut out unnecessary spending. I know it's something that is always said, you need to cut your spending, cut your costs, and I know it's something that you don't like to hear, but the truth of the matter is we all need to do it. I mean, even though a business is a different type of entity, you have to look at it kind of like a business person. It has income, it has expenses, and they have debt as well. And when you're able to leverage certain things and do things successfully, when the bad times come, you'll be okay. We've seen companies such as Starbucks and Amazon who haven't had to ask the government for any money, and they're still able to move accordingly. I mean, nobody can survive without income indefinitely or severe loss of income. But however, these companies have a strong balance sheet. So my advice to you is to make sure that you have a strong balance sheet. Get your liquidity up. Liquidity is a term they just use for cash. So get your money up. Do what you can. In this market, I understand if you're home and you've been able to work and that hasn't stopped your money, then you need to be putting more aside. If you're not driving to work, that money that you can use in gas, you can use that. I would say do a 50-50 split. Put some of it in savings and then put some of it towards debt reduction. And I will say I agree with Susie Orman. She was like, we don't know how long this is going to go. We don't know what's going to happen. So she's like, you shouldn't really pay anything, and if you have to, and I agree with that for the most part. But I will say, if you have not been impacted and you're still able to work from home, now more than ever, I would say is a great time. And I know it's weird to say that, to pay down some debts or whatever in the midst of a crisis, but here's the thing. Not everyone is going to be negatively impacted financially by this crisis. There are some people who are going to be just fine. There are some people who are going to maintain their jobs. There are some people who will not see not any disturbance in their income whatsoever. And for those of you, my advice is get your money up, stack your cash, pay down a little bit of debt if you're able to look at your budget and say, well, I saved $100 on or $150 on gas. Put some of it towards savings and put some of it a little bit towards debt reduction. Because the thing about it is, and this is one example that I love to use, I want you to take a look at your credit card statement. I know most of us are like, we look at it, we get it, we make a payment, and don't think about it. But if you look at your credit card statement, the companies now, they have to tell you, if you make no more charges, oftentimes it's a time span of 20 years, and you just make the minimum payment on your credit card, it'll take you on average about 20 years to pay it off. You are now a stream of income for a credit card company, and that's what you've become. That's what all of us have become. If you have a credit card and you have a revolving balance, then you're a line of income. And the thing is, we have to stop doing that. We have to put more money in our pockets. I'm not going to say don't have a credit card. I'm not going to say don't charge. But what I am going to say is be more responsible with your spending. Think about what you're doing. Give it thought. Is this really a necessary purchase? Is this something I can wait for? It's okay to wait for something that you want, because in the long run, it's going to help you a great deal. So those are my thoughts on what's going on in the market. And again, my advice is simple. This is the time to shore yourself up if you have not been negatively impacted by COVID-19. If you have been, don't give up. Do what you can. Just do your best to keep your mental together, because you have to remember, this will pass. It may take some time, but it will. And we already are trying to do our best to adjust to a new normal. So those are my thoughts. Everyone have a good day. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe and share this video with a friend, because my goal is to really empower all of us financially. We have to get our money up. And this crisis shows us that we were not prepared for what was coming. And this came out of nowhere. This came unexpected. And that's life. Good things, great things can come unexpectedly, and sometimes bad things too. So everyone, please stay safe, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye.